Pyramids, pharaohs, mummies. We all think we know ancient Egypt, right? But what if I told you that most of what you've seen in movies is just the tip of the iceberg? What if the real story of this incredible civilization is far more complex, bizarre, and fascinating than you could ever imagine? Forget the Hollywood cliches. Today, we're going on a journey back in time, over 5,000 years, to uncover the true, unfiltered history of ancient Egypt. We'll explore how a scattered group of riverside settlements grew into one of the most powerful empires the world has ever seen, a civilization that lasted for over 3 millennia. That's longer than the time from the Roman Empire to today. So, stick around, because we're about to decode the secrets of the Nile. And trust me, you'll never look at a pyramid the same way again. Our story begins not with giant pyramids, but with the lifeblood of Egypt, the Nile River. Before pharaohs and gods, there were nomadic hunter-gatherers. Around 6000 BC, they started to settle along the fertile banks of the Nile. Why there? Because the Nile was a miracle. Every year, it would flood, depositing a rich layer of black silt that made the land incredibly fertile. This predictable cycle allowed them to master agriculture, growing crops like wheat and barley. This surplus of food was the game changer. It meant not everyone had to be a farmer. People could become craftsmen, priests, soldiers, and scribes. Society began to stratify, and small villages grew into bustling towns. These early communities were split into two main regions: Upper Egypt in the south, a land of cliffs and valleys, and Lower Egypt in the north, where the Nile fans out into a marshy delta. For centuries, these two lands had their own rulers, their own gods, and their own distinct cultures. They were rivals, often clashing over resources and territory. This division is a key theme we'll see throughout Egyptian history. But this separation wasn't destined to last. A powerful leader was about to emerge, one who would unite the two lands and set the stage for greatness. Around 3100 BC, a king from Upper Egypt, known to history as Narmer, or perhaps means, achieved the impossible. He conquered Lower Egypt and unified the two lands under a single crown. This is the moment that historians mark as the beginning of the first Egyptian dynasty and the start of the early dynastic period. To symbolize this unification, the pharaohs would wear a double crown, the white crown of Upper Egypt and the red crown of Lower Egypt, combined into one. Narmer founded a new capital city, Memphis, strategically located at the junction of the two lands. It would become the political and cultural heart of Egypt for over 1,000 years. With unification came stability and a massive surge in cultural development. This is when we see the birth of hieroglyphic writing. It wasn't just for decoration, it was a sophisticated system for recording laws, history, and religious beliefs. This ability to record and transmit complex information was a superpower. It allowed for organized government, massive construction projects, and the preservation of their culture for millennia to come. This period laid the groundwork for the most iconic era of all, the Old Kingdom, the age of the pyramid builders. Welcome to the Old Kingdom, often called the Age of the Pyramids. Spanning from about 2686 to 2181 BC, this was a time of incredible peace, prosperity, and architectural ambition. The pharaoh was no longer just a king, he was a living god on earth, the intermediary between the divine and the mortal. His power was absolute. And what do you do when you're a living god with absolute power and unlimited resources? You build yourself a tomb for eternity. It started with a pharaoh named Djoser. His brilliant architect, Imhotep, had a revolutionary idea. Instead of a simple, flat-topped tomb called a mastaba, why not stack them on top of each other, creating a stairway to the heavens? The result was the step pyramid at Saqqara, the world's first large-scale stone building. This innovation sparked an architectural arms race. Succeeding pharaohs wanted bigger and better. This culminated in the Great Pyramid of Giza, built for the pharaoh Khufu. For over 3,800 years, it was the tallest man-made structure on Earth. Think about the sheer logistics. Millions of stone blocks, some weighing as much as an elephant, quarried and transported without the wheel, and assembled with a precision that baffles engineers to this day. These pyramids weren't built by slaves, as movies often portray. They were built by skilled Egyptian laborers, who were paid in food and beer, and who took immense pride in building a monument for their god-king. The Old Kingdom was the pinnacle of centralized power, but it couldn't last forever. After centuries of pyramid building, the Old Kingdom's central authority began to crumble. Building massive monuments was incredibly expensive, draining the royal treasury. At the same time, regional governors, called nomarchs, were growing more powerful and independent, challenging the pharaoh's authority. A series of low Nile floods led to famine, and the people began to lose faith in their divine king. Egypt spiraled into chaos, entering what's known as the First Intermediate Period. For over a century, the country was fractured, with rival dynasties vying for control. But Egypt has a habit of bouncing back. Around 2055 BC, a powerful family from the city of Thebes in Upper Egypt reunited the country, kicking off the Middle Kingdom. This era is considered Egypt's classical age. The pharaohs of the Middle Kingdom were different. They were less like remote gods and more like shepherds of their people, focusing on public works, welfare, and expanding trade. They dug canals to increase agricultural land and built fortresses to secure their borders. Art and literature flourished, producing some of the finest works of Egypt's history. But this golden age was also brought to an end by outside forces. A group of people from Western Asia, known as the Hyksos, migrated into the Nile Delta. With their superior military technology, like horse-drawn chariots and composite bows, they eventually seized control of Lower Egypt, plunging the nation into its Second Intermediate Period. The proud Egyptians were now ruled by foreigners. This was a deep humiliation, but it also forced them to adapt and learn. The Egyptian spirit of resilience shone through once again. The Theban rulers in the south learned the Hyksos' military tactics, adopted their weapons, and after a long struggle, drove them out of Egypt. This victory ushered in the most glorious chapter in Egyptian history, the New Kingdom. This was the age of empire, conquest, and legendary pharaohs. Think of names you know. Hatshepsut, the female pharaoh who ruled as a king, Thutmose III, the Napoleon of Egypt, who led massive military campaigns expanding the empire to its greatest extent from Syria in the north to Nubia in the south. Wealth poured into Egypt from its conquered territories. This is the era of the grand temples of Karnak and Luxor, and the hidden tombs in the Valley of the Kings. And of course, we have Akhenaten, the heretic king who abandoned the traditional pantheon of gods to worship a single deity, the sun Diskaden. This religious revolution was short-lived. After his death, his son, a young boy named Tutankhamun, restored the old gods. King Tut is famous not for what he did in life, but because his tomb was discovered almost completely intact in 1922, giving us an unprecedented glimpse into pharaonic wealth. But the peak of the New Kingdom came with Ramesses II, or Ramesses the Great. He ruled for an astonishing 67 years, building more temples and statues than any other pharaoh. He is a titan of Egyptian history. Even the mightiest empires eventually fade. After Ramesses the Great, Egypt entered a long, slow decline. A series of less effective pharaohs, internal power struggles between the monarchy and the priesthood, and constant external threats weakened the state. A group of seaborne invaders known as the Sea Peoples caused widespread chaos across the Mediterranean, and Egypt struggled to fend them off. Then came a succession of foreign rulers. First, the Libyans, then the Nubians from the south, who actually revered Egyptian culture and saw themselves as its restorers. After them, the Assyrians, and then the Persians conquered the land of the Nile. Each conquest chipped away at Egypt's independence. Then, in 332 BC, a new conqueror arrived, Alexander the Great. He was welcomed as a liberator from Persian rule. After his death, his general, Ptolemy, took control of Egypt, establishing the Ptolemaic dynasty. This was a unique period where Greek culture blended with Egyptian traditions. The capital moved to the new coastal city of Alexandria, which became a beacon of learning and culture, home to the Great Library of Alexandria. The Ptolemies ruled as pharaohs, but spoke Greek. The final ruler of this dynasty, and the last pharaoh of Egypt, was the legendary Cleopatra VII. Her story, entangled with the Roman generals Julius Caesar and Mark Antony, marked the end of Egypt's autonomy. After her death in 30 BC, Egypt became a province of the Roman Empire. The age of the pharaohs was over. So, what is the legacy of this incredible 3,000-year civilization? It's everywhere. Their advancements in mathematics and engineering epsilon tau alpha iota allowed them to build monuments that still stand today. Their medical knowledge, recorded in papyri, shows they understood surgery and had a grasp of the circulatory system. Our 365-day calendar is a direct descendant of the one they developed to track the Nile's floods. And their system of writing, the hieroglyphs, laid the groundwork for future alphabets. But beyond the tangible, their legacy is one of resilience, innovation, and a profound belief in eternity. They created a culture so powerful and alluring that it has captivated the world for thousands of years. From the pyramids that pierce the sky to the secrets buried in the sand, ancient Egypt reminds us of the incredible heights that humanity can achieve. Their story is a testament to the enduring power of a civilization built along a river, ruled by gods, and obsessed with life, death, and the journey beyond. Thank you so much for joining me on this whirlwind tour of ancient Egypt. If you enjoyed this journey, please hit that like button, subscribe for more deep dives into history, and let me know in the comments which part of Egyptian history fascinates you the most. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.